Hey, so it's Monday, September 4th, 8:26 a.m. in Maui, Hawaii, and we are currently in the head. We are in gate 64.1 in the sun, and the Earth is in gate 63.1. So this is interesting because we just went from being very much so in the we show just the transits here. We were very much so in the heart solar plexus connection there, and now we've got two gates that are not pairing gates, they're just hanging gates, 64 and 63 in the head. So we went from extra heart energy, extra ego energy, extra solar plexus energy into a lot of head pressure. So if you feel the head pressure, let me know what that feels like for you. I'm really curious to know. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm just pouring my first little wash of tea here. Gate 64, before completion. Confusion. Transition, like birth, requires a determined strength for the passage through. And we are in line 1. Conditions. Exaltation in penetrating to the center, the understanding that instills the necessary harmony to survive disorder. Amongst the confusion, the difficulty in finding the point. Detriment is the powerful temptation when having transition in sight to hasty action, an urge to act when you think you have made sense of the confusion. Well, that is rather interesting. So what I know about this gate is that, it helps us look forward into the future and anticipate, or sorry, this one looks back into the past, and it helps us or it provides us with the questions that confuse us, and then it links to gate 47, which is right below it in the ajna, and gate 47 is what kind of pieces everything together. And so because this gate is hanging, and unlike the last transit that we had, which was in and of itself a channel, you got to look at your chart and see if you have gate 47, which I believe I definitely do have 47. Yeah, so I have gate 47. So for me, I might feel an extra layer of confusion that then my 47 or my mind can then start to process a little bit more. So for me, this entire week, this channel is going to be active, which this is a channel of, again, making sense of confusion, or editing and piecing together cohesive stories for myself. And so that's something that, I'm definitely going to play around with in terms of doing a lot of reflection, because again, 64 is the ability to look back. And with it being in the transits, again, I'm not necessarily going to make any like crazy decisions, obviously, based off of the transits, but I am able to use like the energy, the homogenizing force and this energy to bring through some inspiration that isn't necessarily a part of my natural self. So now in the detriment, it's the urge to act when you think you have made sense of the confusion. So again, in making sense of confusion, I'm going to wait to act. That's going to be the way that I prevent myself from making any movements that are out of alignment with myself or out of not self. Is once I've made sense of the confusion, right, I'm not going to act on that clarity, right, because it's not necessarily a part of my circuitry. So surprisingly, my head feels clarity. I'm also getting over a cold. I have gate 63, which can be helpful in this transit. Yeah, so everyone's going to experience the transits a little bit differently. For some people it might feel like headachy. For other people it might feel like head clarity. I guess the exciting piece of it is that now you have a portion of the puzzle, or a factor within the equation that you can then ask yourself, kind of like, okay, why do I feel a little bit more clarity? And again, keys here is if you don't have 64 already in your chart, You do not want to you do not want to act on the when you think you've made sense of the confusion. That's the detriment is warning us against that in that sense. It says powerful temptation when transition is in sight to hasty action. But then the exaltation, the quote unquote good side, is amongst the confusion, the difficulty in finding the point. And so that's the thing that I mention a lot is like there's a lot of things in the I Ching and in the Rave I Ching and in human design that um, you could label as like not good, right? You could label that as like, oh, difficulty in finding the point. How is that an exaltation? And well, it's like these things are not always supposed to be easy for us, right? And you even look at the generator type and the not self um, signatures, the not self of all of the types. Like we're supposed to feel those things. We're supposed to experience the harmonizing. Um, and by supposed to, I mean there's no escaping it unless you're completely in a delusion, right? And so yeah, we're just really exploring what it means to be ourselves and what it means to be different. Because I was listening to Ra earlier this week, and he was talking about how easy it is to recognize sameness, right? Like we're all the same. We all have 9 centers, right? We all may have similar circuitry. We all may have similar backgrounds or similar experiences, but it's much more challenging to figure out those things that make us different, and that's where human design is really beautiful. So, hey, Star Girl, welcome, welcome, welcome. And you're welcome. All right, so let's go to gate 63, which is after completion. Doubt is the earth, and in the spiral of life, all ends are beginnings. So line 1 is composure. And composure is the quality of personality, whereas achievement is accepted with equanimity, where the continued development is allowed to take its natural course. Acceptance of achievement, but doubt whether continued development will take place. So this is just a simple acknowledging that just because you've achieved something doesn't necessarily mean that you should be doubtless moving forward from that achievement. Which again is a natural part of especially the head and the mind. There's this natural kind of how you say um, yes but kind of energy of the mind, and then that the mind's function is to kind of like keep kicking the can down the road and keep the problem evolving, and the mind relevant within the function of the problem or obstacle. Um, and the detriment here is the tendency in achievement to immediately seek new goals at the risk of destabilizing what has already been accomplished. The pressure in achievement to still doubt one's capacities and to immediately seek new goals. Well, this one's pretty relevant for me because I've done this a lot in my life of like, I got something great or I accomplished something really good. Like I had a really good month financially, or I had a beautiful relationship that's budding, or I had a new business that was doing well. And instead of accepting that achievement that I've created for myself, I will have immediately just started looking for, well, okay, what's the next relationship? Well, what's the up level from this, and never having a moment to appreciate what it is that I have achieved. And so there is that tendency again today to immediately seek new goals rather than to appreciate one's achievements. The time I think will come for that later on in this transit, but for now, very important to accept the achievements that you've made, and allow yourself to enjoy the difficulty in finding the point. Because again, this is the head, so this is the more we're able to distinguish our head space and our thoughts from our inner authority and the sounds that our bodies make. Ultimately, the more choice we will have, the more freedom and the more transformation that can happen. More willing transformation. And I was listening to some wild stuff about the years to come lecture that Ra has out, and I think that's in 2027 or 2027 predictions or Rave Cosmology. Somewhere it's in either of those two channels. but it's a 12-hour thing. And he talks about transformation as a window in the sense that, and he repeats it over and over again, we only have this small window to transform. Up until 2027 is our window. And once 2027 hits, then our window of transformation is closed. And so it kind of, for me at least, lights a fire under my butt to be like, okay, if I'm going to transform and 2027 is the end of that window of transformation, what transmutations like have to happen before that window closes for me personally? Um, and so I'm looking at 2027 as if that's the moment that I'm going to hand it all of my work over to spirit or the sun. It's like I'm looking like that as the end, as if I had an expiration date. 2027 is going to be my projected expiration date. And so there's the possibility that that could make me more manic, that could make me less productive. There's also the possibility that that could give me more peace, make me more appreciative, and make me a lot more productive. And so um, my bet is on the latter there, just because that's kind of how I operate. And I have a feeling again that there is going to be some of the prior, there is going to be some more of that manic and a little bit more of that energy, but that's okay. Again, it's like in Kingdom Hearts, the closer you step towards the light, the greater your shadow becomes. And it's a very true statement. So for those of you that have those thoughts in your head, like Dragon, um, just remember that, even though you are alone in this, or it may feel lonely, that you're not alone. Like, you have to do it for yourself, but you're not alone in doing it. And that's part of the reason why I created this Discord in a way, is like a Noah's Ark for me, because as much as I love sharing content on TikTok and Instagram, ultimately, like, I want a community that it can be, the conversations can be a two-way street. I've been in um, the seat of the teacher often, and with this Discord, I've met people who are not the moderators, who are just people joining, who are more educated in human design than I am, and I've had the tendency to be very excited about that, because I'm usually the most educated person in human design in the room, and feels good to not be that way. Um, Now, the beauty of that is I'm having to come up against the validity of my own existence within the human design world, thinking, well, if I don't know everything, I have gate 26 in the heart, which is the will to be the best. And if I don't know everything, then how am I even relevant in this human design world? And naturally, we're not relevant because of what we know. So yeah, so it's fun, because there's always going to be someone that knows more than us, right? There's always going to be someone that knows more than me. And if I base my value in how much I know in the head versus who I am as a being, and the resourcefulness and adaptation, and the ability to forgive, which for me it's always just about, like, how hungry am I for the truth, which is my heretic, and then how willing am I to show compassion, which is my third line. I don't know what Jesus Christ was, but I imagine he was a 3-5. At least that's what I like to think. Which a lot of people don't feel that way. A lot of people think Jesus is the sixth line, but I don't. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. He's definitely ahead of his time, and I feel that way for sure about fifth lines. Is that in a way we're ahead of our time, but the rest of the world is in a way of catching up. So I feel like a child in this Discord, because sometimes of how little I know compared to everyone else. Yeah, I feel that way too. I feel that way too, Dragon. It's really fun, actually, because again, for a lot of my life, I used to avoid rooms like that where I wasn't the smartest in the room, and it didn't really serve me that well. And so that is that. All right, guys. Well, the brother Luke is out working on the fish ponds. I'm going to get ready for this session I have coming up here. Thank you guys for joining me today, and we'll tune in again tomorrow. Transit is going to happen again at like midnight time, and yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow for the next Teen Transits. Aloha.